Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Let's go ahead and talk about the big story from Monday, though. So Notre Dame and USC. I'm going to use a little bit of a 90s reference here. They're basically the Ross and Rachel of college football. For about 4 or 5 years now, we have heard this thing. So first of all, USC and Notre Dame have played for quite literally, essentially 100 years straight. Every single year they play, they this, they that, they whatever. And I only bring it up because over the last couple of years, it has become increasingly obvious that one side wants out of the relationship. So maybe it's not a perfect Ross and Rachel analogy, but you get the point. Bottom line is they've been playing for 100 years outside of the COVID year and outside of World War II. They have played every single year, okay? But over the last couple of years, it has become increasingly obvious that, frankly, that USC kind of wants out of this partnership, okay? And so, first of all, it goes back to really about 18 or so months ago. I actually found the original quote. So this rivalry kind of, you could tell there was starting to become some friction. This was the 2024 Big Ten Media Day. So not this past summer, but 2 summers ago. Lincoln Riley was asked about the Notre Dame football rivalry and what is the future. Remember that year, LSU and USC were opening the season. There were reports that USC tried to cancel the game. I believe USC and Ole Miss were on the schedule. Lincoln Riley and USC canceled that game. But dating back to July of 2024, this is what Lincoln Riley had to say about the partnership, about the relationship, about the rivalry. He said there have been a lot of teams that have to sacrifice rivalry games. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but as we get into this playoff structure, and if it changes or not, we get into a new conference. We're going to learn some about this as we go and what the right and best track is for winning a championship. He continued. Alabama didn't schedule for their fans. They scheduled to win national championships. My hope is we can do the best thing, schedule to win championships. And if that includes a rivalry game, then for all that comes with that and blah, 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 whatever. Bottom line, Lincoln Riley has been hinting at this for 2 years now, okay? And I'll try to be quick because I want to get this sound in. It is so good. You're going to love it. But basically, it has really ramped up really the last year or so. And essentially, I'll defend USC a little bit. I sort of understand where they're coming from. Basically, their big argument over the last year, those were Lincoln Riley's original quotes. Since then, though, what has become interesting is that USC is now deeper into this Big Ten thing. And I sort of understand where USC is coming from. They've basically, up until Monday, their stance has been, look, we will play you, but it has to be in the traditional non-conference window, basically like week 1, week 2, week 3. Like that's when the game has to be. And for people who don't know the calendar aspects of it, Notre Dame and USC, when they play at Notre Dame, is usually middle of October. And when Notre Dame plays at USC, it is traditionally the last game of the regular season. And so I'll try to be quick, but why this is important is for 2 reasons. Basically, USC has said, like, look, we will play you, but we want it to be early. And their argument is essentially that basically like we have to make 3 or 4 cross-country trips every single year as part of this new Big Ten deal. We got to go to Minnesota, and then we got to come back, and then we got to go to Iowa, then we got to come back, then we got to go to Rutgers, then we got to come back, we got to go to Nebraska, then we got to, and they're basically just like, we don't need another cross-country trip in the middle of the season. And so that has been their stance. The argument was always, if we move up the game, we're willing to play it. But over the last couple of weeks, things have changed. Now, a little bit of context here because I didn't include it in my notes for Matt here. But, this story came out about Notre Dame. I guess there's a clause in the playoff structure of if they're ranked in the top 12, basically they get an automatic spot in the college football playoff. Okay. And it's the weird thing, whatever. But I only bring it up because now USC has decided not only are they canceling the series, but the argument is that Notre Dame will not be punished for a loss in November, and we might be. And so I want to get into it. First of all, Matt, you could pop my tweet, which has the Ross Dellinger quote, because this is the important part. and this is the part I will defend Notre Dame on. I haven't defended Notre Dame much over the last couple weeks, but USC set the standard. We want to play early. We can play November next year, but we're going to go early going forward. So I bring it up because this is what Ross Dellinger reported on Monday. He said the latest rounds of discussions amongst administrators at each school fizzled over the last 2 weeks, a stunning about face. In fact, the two programs were on the verge of finalizing a 2-year extension of their agreement in late November. So we're talking about less than a month ago, with USC agreeing to host Notre Dame next year on the traditional date after Thanksgiving and the Irish hosting in 2027. This is the money quote right here. However, USC officials determined the game date was not ideal considering past decisions from the CFB selection committee in punishing schools for losses, especially those late in the season. All right. So I want to be abundantly clear here, and I want to explain something loud and clear. I understand that people don't like Notre Dame. I understand that they need to join a conference and all that, and that's what you're going to yell and scream about. Here is the bottom line. I want you to understand what happened with this rivalry. USC set the terms. Notre Dame agreed to those terms. And then USC pulled the rug anyway. This is not a Notre Dame and USC are 50-50 to blame. USC set the terms, Notre Dame agreed to them, and then USC changed its mind at the last minute, and there is no other thing to say other than that USC looks insanely soft because, as Ross Dellinger said, they are quite literally afraid to take a loss in November. Their argument is losses late in the season are punished more than losses early in the season. We can't risk it. Well, here's an idea. How about you just beat your biggest rival and then it's not an issue? And so that is what happened on Monday. And let me also say this. It's not just Notre Dame people who are upset. So I live in LA, okay? And I will tell you, like, this game matters to USC fans. So I think there's kind of the new school USC fans that understand it's a new world. We're in the Big Ten now. The world is changing, whatever. I actually think that's a very small minority. Okay, let me say this. Colin Cowherd, good friend of mine. Love Colin. He's been great to me. I owe a lot to him. I'm basically at Fox Sports Radio because of him, okay? He has been in this USC doesn't need Notre Dame thing. And I think what I would say is I think because Colin has such a big voice, I think people think he speaks for the whole fan base. I think it's actually a very small portion of the fan base that is totally okay with this rivalry being gone. And I think the vast majority of the fan base wants this rivalry there. And it's not just fans. What I was surprised by on Monday, the number of former USC players who openly spoke out about how angry they were that this rivalry was canceled. The big difference. Canceled, not cancered. That's not even a word, thank goodness, but I'm talking about canceled. Matt, pop up the Sua Cravens tweet first. Okay, so Sua Cravens, USC legend, playing the NFL for about 8-9 years. He still does media here in LA. He said, shaking my head. Need to figure this out ASAP. Call me a purist all you want. I want to play Notre Dame every damn year. Fight on. That was one. There were other tweets, but I don't think anyone was as vocal about this rivalry being gone as Keyshawn Johnson. He's been in the media. I don't know if he's doing any media stuff now, but he was at ESPN. He was at FS1. He is a USC alum, a USC legend. One of my earliest experiences watching college football was Keyshawn Johnson in the Rose Bowl for USC before he became the number 1 overall pick. We got to listen to what Keyshawn Johnson has to say about this rivalry.
Man, you know what? I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I can't believe what I just heard. But I just heard that we're not playing Notre Dame. I think the series is getting ready to end like in the next year or so. Here's what I'm going to say, man. I don't know what the F is going on with our athletic department. Okay, we got people in there that are not Trojans, that don't know anything about being a Trojan, running our athletic department. We got a head coach that knows nothing about being a Trojan. Why don't we just not play football. How about that? We're not going to play Notre Dame again, possibly till 2030 is what I'm understanding. That doesn't make any sense. I grew up on the Notre Dame USC rivalry. And I'm not one to go in on my athletic department, nor am I one to go in on the USC football coach. But if I can remember correctly, I had Lincoln Riley talking about, well, I don't know if I want to play them in the future. You ain't going to be here in the future, especially if you keep missing the playoffs. You're not going to be here in the future. I promise you that. So I don't understand what our athletic department or administration, okay, or board of trustees, board of regents, whatever you want to call it. What the hell are they doing? We running from teams now? We running from Notre Dame? Hell, why don't we run from Oregon and Michigan and Ohio State and Wisconsin? Why don't we just not be in the conference? Why don't we pull that move and just play Sacramento State? Why don't we play them type of teams? UC Davis? Because that's what we want to do. This is crazy. It really is crazy if you think about it. Michigan, Ohio State, one of the biggest rivalries in football. Alabama, Auburn. Okay? They ain't canceling that. Why would we cancel our biggest rivalry because we can't beat them? It's ridiculous. It makes zero sense, man. It's just hard to support this program. It's hard. It's really hard to support this program when we keep on doing this type of stuff, this behavior. I can't, man. We need Trojans doing Trojan things. We don't need imposters coming in trying to do Trojan things. I'm going to leave it at that.
Holy crap. Okay. I'll say this is that, I think that sometimes people in the media are afraid to call out other people. That is about as vicious as I can remember. You're not a Trojan. You'll never be a Trojan. And you're not going to be here very long. You won't be here in 2030 if you don't start making the college football playoff. Okay. And so I wanted to play that sound because, listen, do I have an opinion? Yes. Is it sad the rivalry's gone? Yes. But I can't speak for Notre Dame fans and I can't speak for USC fans. And I think what kind of the national, big boy, mainstream media wants to tell you it's all Notre Dame's fault. USC doesn't care. They're in the Big Ten. No. I think Keyshawn Johnson spoke for a lot of people with that rant. I'll take it a step further, okay? I think that very clearly, and I think that this decision is part of the friction between Lincoln Riley and USC, and to a degree, by the way, Jen Cohen, the AD, and USC. Again, I'm just going to say, and I love Colin Cowherd. I really do. I think a lot of people think that he speaks for a lot of Trojan fans. I'm just telling you, as somebody who lives in LA, I don't believe that he does, okay? But what Keyshawn said was so important, is that these people aren't Trojans. They'll never be Trojans, and they're not going to be around here. They better start making some moves if they want to be around here for a while. And so I bring it up because, to me, it is so important to contextualize that. And I think it speaks to the larger issue of the friction between Lincoln Riley and the USC fan base, I do think is palpable. Okay. And we always thought, as I'll be one of many that thought it was going to work. It was going to be a home run. Now, admittedly, when Lincoln Riley took the USC job, we thought he was going to be in the Pac-12, and that changed within a calendar year or whatever. But two, I thought it was going to work. But I think increasingly what we're realizing, it really is a square peg in a round hole situation. And then to take it a step further, I think this is the part that stands out to me. Lincoln Riley does not have a lot of allies at this job, okay? He's kind of a weird guy. He's kind of really prickly. He's kind of rude with the media. And listen, I don't care. It doesn't bother me if you're rude with the media. But when you're rude with the media, when you're, I'll tell you like a little inside baseball, he has no real relationships with the high school coaches here and whatever you think about SoCal. SoCal does produce a lot of players. Maybe most of them aren't, defensive and offensive linemen like they are in wherever. But SoCal does produce a lot of players. The best programs in high school football, Mater Dei and Don Bosco Prep. I mean, we're talking about two of the best programs in high school football are within an hour's drive of USC's program. He has no relationships. And so I only bring it up because that from Keyshawn Johnson says to me, no relationships, no goodwill built. Bro, you better start winning right away. because everything that USC has stood for 100 years, you are tearing down without the equity with the fan base or without the wins that are allowing you to keep the. So like, I don't even know the point I'm trying to make. I guess the point I'm trying to make is this. The friction between Lincoln Riley and USC is real. By the way, shout out to all the people who call Lincoln Riley soft when he left Oklahoma. I tried to defend it at the time, but it is very obvious that he is soft, that he is afraid of competition, that he wants nothing to do with facing the best teams, and he wants the easiest path possible. Now, I understand, by the way, the Big Ten is a different world. And whatever we think about the Big Ten, you look at USC's schedule next year, it's bananas. I think they play Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana, and Michigan. Indiana, and maybe it's Penn State. No, it's Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. Okay. So I get it. I get that the league is tougher, but you're US freaking C, man. I mean, whatever. We know the most draft picks, most Heismans, most whatever. And you are now running from your biggest rival. It's a bad look. We can debate, what it means for college football, but this is one, man. Like, Notre Dame has taken a lot of heat over the last month or so, and I think justifiably for how they handled the college football playoff situation. But like I said, they can't call them blameless in this situation. What you can say is, this one's on USC. And I'm just telling you, Lincoln Riley better start winning big, or he's going to lose this fan base for good.